Well, I was thinking about kind of how I wanted to proceed. And a part of me, well, I thought there's so many questions I could ask you about the conception of the record, um, a lot of different parts of that. But then I thought I kind of want to jump into the music right away.
Oh.
And we can always weave that in or come back to that, but I'm just so excited to do that. So,
Yeah.
and I even thought that I'd like to play the song first because I can do that while we're on the recording,
Cool.
and then we can talk about it. And I got so excited. I'm like, now, okay, don't get too overwhelmed because like one song, two songs is there's so much to it. So I kind of was like, okay, simplify. But I know there's so much we could talk about. I should also say that, I'm aware that we met each other in 2004, which is the year my dad died.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you and I didn't go through a lot of it, but we had a number of email correspondences over the years. I don't know if you've saved them, but I think that that's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. So why don't I'd like to start with Aunt Honey, if that's okay. That was the first one you gave to me.
Yeah.
So let me do that. Hold on a second. Just bear with me a second. You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out how to do this from what you had given me. Okay, it's coming on.
My Bonnie lies over the ocean, my Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies with another warm body, not beside me. When I was born to this brightness, I ached for my mother's heartbeat. Now I am wailing again like a baby, naked and sweet. But I'll put on my fancy dresses, I'll wear my fancy hat, and I'll sing at all the swell parties without him. How about that? 'Cause I worked so hard in the same war that led him to her. Decoded all enemy secrets just to use against them later. But I cared for a boy, a child not my own, whose mother's heart stopped near the ocean, and we'll nurse our grief till it's gone. So come drink the honey, I've been collecting it just for you. I'll share it just when you need it, like my kind do, we do. I'll watch him long for his pretty mother. I'll make him smile, oh, along with his brother. I'll hold him tight and he'll hold me back. I'll help him fight sister to cry with his children in the ocean they'll play. Don't you feel sorry for the old maid? 'Cause with all this heartache, you can taste all the nectar, I'd say. So come drink the honey, I've been collecting it just for you. I'll share it just when you need it, like my kind do, we do.
Well, that was lovely. We don't have to do anything more. I didn't think I could get emotional listening to my own songs anymore because they're so, there's so many iterations of them and I've had to listen to them over and over again, but watching you dance is a completely different experience. So thank you for that.
Maybe you were saving it all for me, that nectar.
That was very beautiful. I could feel some different, like, especially during the chorus, I could feel the sort of joy come back. It does go through a lot of,
Go ahead.
like an emotional roller coaster kind of song. The bittersweetness of life, really. So I could see, I just felt that so much with your dancing. Really, just such a gift.
Likewise.
Such a gift. So it's like, so just, it's as pleasantly surprised and heart opening. Yeah. Like your poetry. Just, it's very.
I think I wrote some of this to you, but I thought I would say it again, though, when I first listened to, because I texted you a lot. So I went through and looked at all that again. And, I've listened to these songs so much. And, I've told you, and you said the other day that, it's like a spiritual practice. And so for me, it has been a spiritual practice. And so the first listen, it's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. And there's so much sensual energy in it. To me. It makes me immediately want to swirl with it. There's so much swirling. Let me just get my notes here.
I love that swirling. That swirling really makes me, a swirl makes me think of like the divine feminine energy.
Yes.
And that is definitely this song. And this is a grief song, right? But it's a praise song because the other side of grief is praise to be alive at all, the miracle of finding heartbreak and recognizing it in another person and coming together and healing together in that. So in this song, it's my Aunt Honey. It's unlikely people, it's my aunt and my father. Her heartbreak was really from a romantic love, and his was from his mother dying. And they really helped each other and healed each other. And it's bittersweet too, because did they hold each other back? Perhaps also. That's, I say that part. I held him tight and he held me back. And so there's a lot of both. It's both.
Yeah, that's a part of the story that isn't obvious in the story, without you telling me that part. So
right.
Another like 5 layers.
I like to pack them in, just like you. I like to very concentrated. I think that's what happens when you take such time to write the songs and you treat it as a spiritual practice, which I did, because it was so healing. Really, first and always, songwriting was a healing practice for me. So that's always the tricky part of what do you do with that after? What part is for the world and what part is for sharing? But with these songs, in writing it and in singing it alone. Like I really was singing it and writing it and singing it and writing it. I don't think I wrote it down first. I think I
was wondering about that.
Yeah. I would say these songs in particular, I was alone and I was on stolen time for sure. And I would sing, like come up with another line and have to put it down, put the guitar down. And so for some of these songs, like they weren't written out first. Maybe a line I really liked, I would write down so I wouldn't forget. But that didn't always happen. And so some lines were probably lost, but I always felt like reassured that if it was good enough, I'd remember. I don't know if that always works. And also it's fun because then you're like, oh, that was such a good line, but I don't remember it. Maybe it was my best line ever.
But maybe it was meant to emerge into, just like, we talk about in therapy, that the dream will come again. It will emerge again.
Yes, it will be recycled. It will be compost. It will be absolutely. So yeah. I don't know if that.
To me, this feels like a lullaby too.
I think it's the time. Also, it's the time is more lullaby. It's a waltz.
Okay.
The time signature.
That's part of what I wanted to ask you about. Let me just make sure.
I love that it feels like a lullaby. In what way did it feel like a lullaby? Was it the sound mostly?
It's soothing. Well, it sounds like she's singing it, right? So she's it's soothing. It's soothing the heartache. And I think that when you go to I guess would be the chorus, so come drink the honey. When it opens into that the first time, it's gorgeous. It's shimmering. Literally, I could see it shimmering.
Oh, I love that.
And so it's so welcoming and soothing. Also, at the very beginning too, it feels like you're reaching with the song, with your voice, to come with you, to join you in a dance or a rocking.
Yeah.
Were you feeling that in your singing of it?
Yeah, in my singing of it, I mean, this almost made it hard to produce because it almost felt meandering, like a little bit meandering, but the beginning, the intention was like, yeah. And also this is a different experience for me. And I've done it with this album of like writing from her perspective a little bit, so when it's like, come with me, I'm kind of going with her, going with the muse. So yeah, it's kind of cool, right? I mean, it's a very, it's almost like getting into character, like, where are you taking me? I'm gonna go with it. And so it did feel like that in writing that. And it does go, it does meander. It does go from like the heartache and the heartbreak to the like recognizing that grief and healing with someone else.
I really like how it gets, I don't know, do you call it syncopated there as the song goes on? There's something that I think speaks to how grief is too.
Yeah.
That you're not quite on steady ground, is what you were saying before, that there's all these different emotions that come and flow.
That's exactly the sound I was looking for. I was inspired by Leonard Cohen.
Wow. Also,
like I feel like he just does a really good job of bringing like both and the bittersweetness. He has some great of that time signature too, is like that waltz. And so in my mind, that was also a different, like when I sing it just with the guitar, to me, it was like a more of a Leonard Cohen vibe. But then when we started doing production and having access to sort of more sound we could do, it got even more fun to play with that syncopation and how the sound was going to come out. But I have to read you this because it makes me think of this, what you just said. And this is very much a backdrop of the whole album, I think, now that I'm thinking about it. It's from the book, The Smell of Rain on Dust. I think that's what it's called. I'm gonna read it to you because it's really quite beautiful. And where did everything go? Let's see where, if I can read it to you. Here it is. Okay, let's see. Not that. Not that.
Did I say your voice sounds sultry?
Sultry. No, you didn't. It was a different, yeah.
Especially with that part when you really go into it. I want you to tell me what you were feeling like when you're singing those "I'll watch him long for his pretty mother," because you do all these really cool things with your voice, and it's so like from the depths.
Something happened in the studio that day where I hadn't been singing it that way. And I just did a lot of, I'm going to look for this in a minute when it comes up, but I will read it to you.
You want me to be quiet while you're looking?
No,
okay.
I want to speak to this a little bit because I got into first of all, in the studio, there's like I'm like in a black curtain. It's just like a makeshift singing booth, which is awesome. And I got so in just like such a meditative state in really trying to tell this story, that I was singing it different than I had ever sang it before. I've sang it a lot. And Hector was just like, please go with it, like, and so it had a different edge to it. So that's, I think, a sultry thing. I don't know if it was like coming from my Aunt Honey, or I really wanted to honor like what maybe was left over.
I mean, I can understand what you're saying from how it sounds. It sounds very like from a primal place.
Yes. I would from a primal place and from the cosmos. I mean, I was just really grounded down, like, this is, I want to give it right this moment. And I've told you this before, about the webs, and thinking about like spider webs coming out and going into the microphone. And then when someone plays it, like the magic of them coming out and sort of attaching to the people that they need to attach to and being connected by that. And so it's a prayer. I mean, I get in there and I am praying. I am praying with my voice. So it does have a different sound, right? And I almost had a really hard time with this one, listening back and wondering, should I re-sing it? I'm not used to hearing myself that way, maybe. It's funny.
I love it. I think I said too, I get lost in it.
Yeah.
It feels very timeless. But also maybe, when I said to you in the text about this was like the first press, like the extra virgin oil, that maybe is what you're talking about, that you're so in it. There wasn't any observation of it. You were so singing from in it.
Yes, that is right, which is different. So I think hearing it back, I needed a little time to luckily I have some time to
Well,
be
they're
the
also your songs, so now to hear me comment on them, it changes, right? I don't know. How is it so far to talk even right now?
It's amazing. I mean, like I said, like it's almost like it's like that preparation work of being able to receive, because it is, what more could I want than to really move someone else, than to really have someone else like deeply listen to me and see me in a way that's like hearing me, and have it be touching to them in any way. But then to hear you say these really kind but sincere and thoughtful things it's a relief. And it's like awkward dance, a little bit, but not, because I'm so happy. I'm so,
And I've received you.
yeah,
I've received you.
yeah.
I've let you come in. Like, when you say the line, how can we know what sweetness will come, or if it will come at all, who might it come from? I mean, I know I started crying when that you said that. To me, I wrote you, that's you right there. Like if there were any words that could come out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's so lovely to hear. And that's so nice. I think I told you that I told the story about there was a time when I was doing this song with a little band. It was two guys, Vermont guys, and we performed it, and so we were practicing it. And I was looking for a name for us, and I was like, we should be called Aunt Honey as the band name, to honor her in the song and blah, blah, blah. And so I was Googling Aunt Honey, does it exist? What happening? And I found these things called honey ants. So honey ants, this is like made perfect sense to me. Honey ants are these ants that this kind of ant that I think they're the sterile members of the tribe who ingest all of this sweetness, this nectar, and then they hang on the walls of the colony. And when there's a drought or when food is very, very scarce, everyone goes to the honey ant to feed and get nourished through the hard times.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. They're also called honey pot ants, but I just thought it was great because when I Googled Aunt Honey, this came up. And
wow.
To me, I was like, well, that's what Aunt Honey was for my dad. That's what my dad was for her. But also I was like, this is what I want to be. It is what I think artists are. For me, they get us through, the scarcity, the hard times when it's hard to be a human in the world. At least that's what they've done for me. Songs and paintings and poetry. It has been the thing that has kept me alive in my aliveness in the very hard times. And so that was another level for Aunt Honey to be like, well, this is what the sweetness, who you're gonna get it from, you don't know. Sometimes it's a poem, sometimes it's a stranger's like smile, but it can save our life. And so yes, in singing the song, I was hoping that I was doing that offering as well. Like my kind do is like,
I was just going to say that. And that you're from your family.
yeah. Yeah.
You're of your family.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget that part. And I'm like singing about them the whole time, but.
And then the sweetness for me of, to be sitting here right now with you, where I sat before I even ever met you in person, talking to you on the phone.
So that, in
this very chair,
Wow. And now to be back in this town that I didn't think I was going to live back in such a different, joyful way. It's
And
beautiful.
also that we, from even last summer to this summer, we both did a lot of things. And it was so much of my being is from having so much grief too. You may or may not know that about me exactly, but so the perpetual grieving, integration, as you say, you know, the triumph of it, the proclamation. I want to say that about something else you wrote too. But that it comes around and it comes around, it comes around. We're always learning. We continue to have these relationships. And so from last summer to this summer, and all that I went through, which was really a profound year, and to have your offering like this at the end of it, you know, to not have talked with you or been with you per se during it, right? But yet here I am at the same time, and just, you know, such a gift to me this summer, such a gift. You, your family, your pool, everything. And then, you know, to realize when I wanted to play the song and actually dance, because that's just me, right? That's what I've been doing the whole time. I've been dancing with you. And to realize I hadn't yet.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't yet listened to the music with you.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And even when you said you were dancing to it in my pool that day, I was in and out and I didn't realize.
Every day I go there, I dance to one of your songs or more.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. I mean, really, I'm done.
Well, let me see what else I want to say. I just love that word, that just for you. That is so sweet. I've been collecting it, just for you.
Yeah.
So special in that
Yeah.
little phrase. And I wanted to ask you too about that. That do you, well, I just wanted to kind of make a comment that when you're writing, you've seen this yourself, and even some of the lyrics, you know, have evolved since you even wrote this.
Yeah.
And editing just one word can, like you, in one here you wrote, I'm wailing again like a baby at the very beginning.
Yeah.
You change it from crying to wailing.
Yeah.
Can you say more about like when you have that nuance and you can deepen it, or it captures it?
So I said crying, and I sang crying for, like, I don't know how old this song is. Maybe it's 5 years old. And I say crying later in the song. And first of all, I really don't like saying two words to the same words in the song. If it's me, if there's different meanings to them, you know, like, and I struggled with that first one, like wailing like a baby, sobbing like a baby. When you're a baby, I'm talking about the wailing, you know, I'm talking about the grief song.
Yeah.
So I had a hard time committing to the wailing. I kept going back and forth, singing it different ways. It was the last recording where I was just like, I'm saying wailing. And I don't.
Wailing.
Yeah, it really was wailing. But the way it rolls off the tongue and the comfort level of saying it, I don't want to be uncomfortable singing it, right? So, because that is detected. And so I had to probably be in the zone that I was in when I was singing it to pull it off for me. And that's really, you know, it was, I don't know who said it, but, you know, somebody said we always are writing or performing or doing the art for like one person. And it's interesting. I think about that. And for a long time, I thought it was for my dad, to maintain a relationship with him through my singing. In this song, I thought maybe it is my Aunt Honey. And maybe when I really was doing it, I realized it's me. That's the person, you know?
Wow.
So yeah, so all that comes around, right? But yes, the way I love, just thank you so much for paying attention, for noticing all of these nuances, because yeah, like I said, it's been such a spiritual practice, and it has been so heart-centered and done with care. because I think I wanted to accurately reveal my heart.
Yeah, so let me just repeat back what I heard you say, because I think it's really, really profound what you just said. And this might be more of my like therapy ear coming in for a second, if that's okay. That
Of course.
what you just said is so profound in terms of you having the right to your own experience.
That's what I'm fighting for. That's, I think, when I think of myself as a warrior, because I am thinking of myself as a warrior these days,
Me too.
that's what I'm fighting for. It is to be so full of my own life and my own spirit, to really be in the experience of myself. Worth the fight, but man, it's hard. So it's extra hard when you're a people pleaser and you're sensitive to energy and you'd really rather go along with whatever's going on and that you could use your skills. But worth it. So thank you for noticing that.
Let me just see if there's anything else with this song. From the very beginning, I felt that the phrase "we'll nurse the grief till it's gone" also is another truism about trauma. And that trauma, like I had this conversation, a text conversation with someone that I work with who sent me a printout about 12-step and the shame and guilt and the difference between shame and guilt, and then how the making of amends is for the things that we've done, and the shame has to be healed, because we're not inherently shameful, right? But what I realized was that then when that part has subsided, like we'll nurse the grief till it, so that's one whole layer of grief.
Yeah.
But then there's gradations of it, and there's how it shows up in all the little ways, and it can be lessened, right? We can express it and sing about it and dance with it, and it gets digested in some way. It does. And, then we can handle kind of the everyday, shame might come in and we can kind of handle that, or guilt might come in, kind of handle that, right? Because as you're saying, we're full of ourselves now. We're not wounded in the same way.
Yeah. Oh gosh, well, I could say so much about that. I think one thing is, even more than digested, when you find a way to express it, to get it outside of the body, it is so beautiful. It becomes that praise, right? The praise of being alive at all.
I understand. You're right.
It's like, yeah.
Go ahead.
I just think, and so I used to, and I still do sometimes, right? Because it's still, I'll always live with it. But the depth of the grief that I've felt now, for the first time, I'm realizing it does something to the amount of the depth of the joy I can experience. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that make me feel really alive. Mm-hmm. And they're grievers, right? I mean, so it takes a long time to sort of, I think a lot longer than I thought.
Me too. But I think, it sounds like a similar thing. What I did with the work I did with Dancing with the Pain was I realized that my grief and my pain is central to who I am. And really all of us. If we honor our love
Yes.
So, and yes, then the joy can come, but the unity with myself, like I could really relate to what you're saying, that, and then the confidence, the freedom to express, to
Yes.
create, to
Yeah.
integrate,
Yeah.
and to be a warrior voice, really, to help others to see, not to do it for that reason, but by doing so frees many people along the way, I think.
It absolutely does. And it helps, thinking about it that way helps me to get over the art making, or the fear of the making of the art, because it's yeah, like, why wouldn't you want to contribute to that? You do, right? It's meme worthy of like, the best we can do is to like heal ourselves and then gently help other people heal. I mean, and healing is
reveal, right?
Yeah.
It can be hard to reveal. So let me just look and see if there's anything else.
Yes, because also while you look, I'm gonna look for the quote too, because as we wrap up this song, it's everything we're very much what we're talking about.
Yep.
I wonder if I did it on Mercy. Let's see.
I know I said this in the text to you, but, and I may have even since danced the song in my sprinklers out back, because it's got that kind of shimmering.
I love the shimmering. Like, I just forevermore want that song to be known as like that shimmering is, I mean, what better? Okay, so it's The Smell of Rain on Dust. It's a beautiful book about grief, and so I'll just read some of this. It says, "We must remember that the first 9 months of our entire lives, we live entirely as underwater creatures. When our own little heart kicks in, we begin to live our womb life to two separate but dynamically intertwined and interdependent cadences, our mother's steady pulse and our own determined light speed trill. Each of these pulses simultaneously runs through us, ionizing our nerves and souls, echoing together in the ocean of the amnios life tow whales in love, whose dance of motion and hope is much wider than the sum of their rhythmic parts." This ongoing counter rhythm is our first song. We hear it in our new ears, in the water through our body, in our bones it echoes. The loss of our mother's heartbeat and the loss of the hungerless life in the womb are so traumatic and gigantic an event in every child's immediate beginnings as to cause all of us as newborns to utilize the very first inhalation of our tiny little lungs to cry out in grief. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. And I did underline the line, "When I was born to this brightness, I ached for my mother's heartbeat," to ask you about that.
Yeah. So that's where that came from.
Yeah. And that is so profound, that first loss, right? Yeah. And I love what is it, a he, the author?
Yeah, it's a he. And I think it's translated. So it's a very he has a lot of run-on sentences, but
the counter rhythm.
Yes, because that's why I thought of it, because of syncopation.
Right. And that is what's going on in that song.
Yes. So that was I was hoping that I could pull that off.
Well, you did.
Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. It's amazing. And he goes on to say, "Our very lives start out from the very beginning by us crying out as hard as we can in a newly found voice, a sorrowful musical wail, tiny and beautiful, that says, 'Mama, where are you? Where am I? I'm cold and alone here without your drumming heart.' It is a grief poem, a song." So it's just, I mean, it's right. A lot of these songs are that.
Leonard Cohen wrote Hallelujah, right? Okay, so this is like, I woke up this morning. I didn't know this. I woke up this morning and I thought, I'm going to dance to Hallelujah. I didn't yet, but out of somewhere that came. Okay.
Well, he's the master. He's the
seriously, like that never has come into my, I mean, I used to when the kids were little with Shrek, but yeah.
It's
Is it funny?
Yeah, it's amazing.